Good morning, everybody. We're in the middle of the fourth mitzvah, which is the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, that Bezdin has the power to create the day of Rosh Chodesh. Now, a part of that mitzvah is not just to determine which day is Rosh Chodesh, which day is the first day of the month, but also to be Ma'aber Deshana. What that means is they have the power to add a month to the Jewish calendar, like we have sometimes Adar Sheni, a second Adar. Now, what is the reason why we have Adar Sheni, a second Adar? And it's like this: there are 354 days in the moon year, and there are 365 days in the sun year. So, for instance, this past year, for argument's sake, let's say Pesach fell out on April 15th. Which means if you leave the Jewish calendar alone and you don't add anything or change anything to the Jewish calendar, next year, if this year Pesach was April 15th, next year Pesach will be 354 days later, which would be April 4th. Okay? Then the following year, Pesach would be again 354 days later, which is 11 days less than the sun year, and Pesach would be March 23rd. And then the following year, Pesach would be March 12th, and then the following year, March 1st. And before you know it, Pesach is in the middle of February, in the middle of the winter. And Pesach has to be in the spring. We have, Bet Din has an obligation, Shmor et Chodesh HaAviv, to see to it that Pesach falls out in the springtime. So how do we do this? There's an obvious discrepancy of 11 days between the moon year and the sun year, and there's no way. How could you keep Pesach in the spring? The spring is dependent on the sun year. Pesach is on the moon year. How do we work the two together? The answer is, once every either 2 or 3 years, we'll add an extra month, and that's how you catch up, and you constantly do that. And this way we keep Pesach at the same general season that it is meant to be. And that's an obligation on Bet Din, and that's a part of the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, which means a family is sitting around the table back in the day, and it's the end of Adar, and they're planning their son's bar mitzvah, which is in a few days. And, they didn't plan things maybe so much in advance, but they're starting to cook the food and the caterer and the band and the whole thing, and all of a sudden Bet Din comes out and they say we're adding an extra Adar. So the boy's birthday was, let's say, Beis Nisan, and they're at 27 days in Adar, and all of a sudden Bet Din comes in and says we're adding another month this year, so your bar mitzvah is not going to be in 5 days. So you brought all your family in and you flew everybody in and everybody's excited. No, you're going to be waiting another month for your bar mitzvah because we add an extra Adar. And the same thing with a yard site or your birthday. That's what it is. So we know a boy becomes an adult, becomes a bar dat at 13. So you thought you were becoming a bar dat. You were getting that maturity, that wisdom. In 5 days, you're not. Because based on the psak, the ruling of Bet Din, that will determine your birthday, that will determine when you become a bar dat, and other changes, all dependent on Bet Din. Have a great day.